Okay, we're now ready to tackle the white wires. So what we're going to do is reposition all the wires and have them come out all together, and then we're going to figure out what to do here. As you recall, we're going to take one wire nut and connect all of these white wires. So we don't have to have them coming out in any direction like this. We're just going to situate them. Remember, we're going to have the fan switch here, thick body on the back side. So once we get this, we're going to have to figure out, we're probably going to want all these white wires over here. So when we put the wire nut on here, we can fold everything and have the wire nut head into this back corner. Okay, generally in most conditions, you're going to connect certain things with red wire nuts and yellow wire nuts. Now yellow wire nuts maybe for 2 or 3 wires together. Obviously that's not going to work here. We got 6 white wires coming out. Red wire nut usually will hold 3, possibly 5 in a pinch, but that's really tricky. This box had 5 white wires, believe it or not, on a red. Sometimes the red has little nubs on the side, so you can kind of take them and use them for finger tightening. If you don't have that, you take a pair of pliers and kind of twist that. But believe it or not, they have a bigger size wire nut. So we're going to use a gray wire nut, and that's how we're going to connect all these white wires together. Okay, like I was showing you, here's a red wire nut, and here's also a red wire nut. Believe it or not, the inside is the same size. This one could be slightly bigger, actually. Notice this style has this, and you can grab that with your fingers and tighten it up easier than you can with this. So just it kind of depends what brand of wire nut you get. As I'm repositioning these white wires, I want to look deep down inside the box, and I want to keep in mind these white wires towards the end, I want those to push back as far back as possible. So I want to look where the black wires are coming out, and if there's a black wire behind a white wire that I want to push back in there further, I want to rearrange this black wire, get it out of my way, so I can push the white wires all the way back in there. Okay, don't worry if the ends don't line up for right now, okay? Just rearrange everything, and I'll show you what to do next. Okay, I can only work with the existing wires that I have in here, plus my new wire, which is longer. So as I'm folding these back in the box, I want to keep that in mind. Because I'm going to fold that way, you always have to kind of think ahead. Each situation is different, but I'm just kind of showing you what I do. So I want the longer wires back pushed in there first. Then the shorter wires will kind of fold over onto those, because obviously the shorter wires I can't push all the way into the back because there's not going to be enough of the tail end that I can get the screw on there. So I want the shorter ones over towards this side. So as I'm folding, I can kind of fold these over and have it connect to the shorter wires, and then as I bend, it all is going to kind of bend over there together. At this point too, I still want to make sure that my ground wires stay down where they're supposed to be so that they don't get in the way. Right now, once I situate all the white wires and they're in their furthest back, I'm just going to get the black wires out of the way. I don't want to concern myself with the black wires right now. I'm just going to kind of push those and keep them up out of the way so I know where I'm working. Okay, at this point, the old wires, I'm just going to take my pliers, I'm going to straighten out the ends. I may end up cutting some of these and restripping the ends, but specifically the smaller, shorter wires actually, I'm just going to kind of make sure that all that is nice and straight. Normally, if those wires were longer, you can kind of cut the tip off and then restrip it. Obviously, for the shorter wires, I can't do that. Now that I'm at this point, I'm going to kind of gather these wires together and kind of see where I need them to end up at. And then I'll make some calculations and start trimming some wires before I strip them to see where I'm going to end up, where I'm going to put the wire nut. Okay, I'm going to use these wire strippers, and there's separate little marks here. Now you can't see them on there, but I'm gonna read you a couple. Here's one that says 18. These are for all gauge wire. Here's one for 18 gauge, 16 gauge, 14, 12, and 10 gauge. So this will strip quite a few different types of wires. So you want to do the coordinating stripper, and we're ready to do that now. So I'm just going to put it in the hole, press down, and that kind of cuts the plastic around it. You might have to twist it a little bit and grab onto the end and pull it off. So that's how you're going to do that. Make sure you don't strip these back too far. We're going to first do a few smaller strips, and then I'm going to hold them together and see if I need to make them a little bit longer. For the wire nut that we're going to have is a pretty big one, and we need to get those wires pushed way down inside there. So we may have to trim off a little bit extra, but I'm gonna start off with small, hold it together, kind of see what I'm gonna do, and then I can always strip more. Once you strip too much, once you put your wire nut on, you want to make sure that the stripping does not come past the end of this or just below this, because then that's going to be unprotected. These are all hot wires. This is the neutral wires for the system to make it work. You don't want that sticking out of the back side of the wire nut.